Hi there guys, and welcome to this tutorial on question 1b of the foundation paper for the GCSE Unit 1 exam. Okay, I'd like to start off by having a look at the mark scheme. Now this top part, doesn't really change. It's marked out of, you've got 4 marks available for question 1b, and the kind of success criteria for this will stay the same year in, year out by and large. There might be slight changes to the wording, but basically the skills in each of the 3 bands will be the same. Now, you have been asked in the June 2012 exam to tell us what was interesting and unusual about Johnny Depp's visit to the primary school. Now, one thing that I learnt last summer when I was marking these was to view these skills as a kind of ladder, sort of ascending up the skills. So we start down here at the bottom, going all the way up to the top here in the top of band 3. So students can get 1 mark if they can do a number of these things in mark band 1. So they can make a simple reference to the visit, offering some textual detail or quoting, and showing even in a limited way that you understand about Depp's visit to the primary school. Now, in order to move into either 2 or 3 marks, let's look how that wording is different. It talks about make some reference to the interesting or unusual aspects of the visit. So rather than just talking generally about the fact he was at this school, students in mark band 2 focus on the question, so they can focus on why was it interesting that he was there, why was it strange and unusual that Johnny Depp was at this primary school. The second thing that I think it's important to look at is the fact that it's asking here that students attempt to engage with the text and make an inference. An inference, as I'm sure you'll have done with your teachers, is when you can read between the lines, you can read something in the text and come to your own conclusions. You can put your own take on it. So it does say that you need to make an inference. So in mark band 2, examiners want to see evidence of at least 1 reading between the lines. Now, if we're kind of going up our hierarchy of skills, the ladder, we can see that there are some developed references, so you can say a bit more about why it was interesting and unusual. Appropriate quotes, so we're starting to look here for P skills, and see how it's worded here, makes inferences. So not just 1 inference. The examiner, to get full 4 marks, would want to see at least 2 inferences here, and you're clearly showing that you understand why it was unusual and interesting that Johnny Depp visited the school. Okay, so have a look at this student here. They didn't get any marks because all they've had to say here is that he made a secret visit to Great Ormond Street Hospital in January 2008 to donate 1 million. Now, I can see obviously that this student hasn't understood either the question or the text, because they're telling me about an entirely different visit of Johnny Depp's, aren't they? They're talking about the hospital, not the primary school. Again, you say this time and time again, I'm sure your teachers do. Reading the question is so important. The amount of students who answer an entirely wrong question, one they've kind of made up themselves. I think it's important to show you this one. The student only got 1 mark even though they'd written quite a lot. And let's have a think why. So the quote, "Arrived at Meridian Primary School dressed in full character as Captain Jack Sparrow," provides evidence to the reader that Johnny Depp didn't want to offend the girl by not answering the letter to his character. This suggests that Johnny has got form when it comes to flying visits to fans in London. After the one-off trip to 9-year-old Beatrice Delap as his salty sea dog character. Now, it seems like they've written quite a lot, but does it answer the question? Not really. They've stuck in a quote and they've tried to do P here, haven't they, by explaining. But ultimately, all we've got here is just 1 simple reference to the fact he came to the school. So again, tried quite hard here, but it doesn't answer the question. Let's have a look at another example. Now, this is interesting. The student's written less than the previous one, but they've done more, they've sort of shown more skill and got 2 marks for it. So the fact he actually did visit the primary school, because any other celebrity would have ignored the letter, and he even dressed up as Jack Sparrow to go and help the children with their play. So you can see the examiners put reference to the interesting and unusual aspects. There's two of them. So they say something is interesting is that he actually visited the school, and the fact he dressed up like Jack Sparrow. That's the second interesting or unusual thing. It would have been better if the student had used a full sentence there to say one interesting thing was, or one unusual thing was. And there is some reference here to the interesting and unusual aspect. So the examiner has awarded this student 2 marks. Let's have a look at this one then. Again, 3. This student's done a bit better because they've used full sentences. So it was interesting that Johnny Depp had only visited the school because of a letter that a 9-year-old girl wrote, and she was called Beatrice Dollop. She said in this letter, "Captain Jack Sparrow, at Meridian Primary School we were a bunch of budding young pirates. We were having a bit of trouble, mutinying against the teachers, and would love if you could come and help." It's really quite long, that, but you see here the examiner's put that it's a relevant quote, and that fits in here, band 2, relevant quotation. This letter had obviously touched him, so he went to Meridian Primary School with the letter and he was dressed up as Jack Sparrow. Now here I see inference. It doesn't tell me anywhere in the article that Johnny Depp had been touched by this letter, but this student has read into the fact that he's gone and visited, so obviously the letter moved him, it made him want to go, and they've shown here inference, they've read between the lines, and sure enough, this means that they're showing this skill, they're making an inference. It was unusual that he was actually turned up to the school and wearing his costume. So we've got a couple of references to why it's interesting and unusual, and importantly, very importantly, is the fact that this student makes an inference. So important to get 3 marks. Okay. Let's have a look at a full 4 marker then. So the interesting and unusual thing about the visit is because it's not every day a Hollywood heartthrob pitches up in your classroom, which suggests he loves his fans. See how the examiners put this in brackets? They've put quote and inference. A phrase like which suggests or which shows are really good phrases to use in this kind of question, because they just signpost to an examiner that you're going to be showing an inference. Another unusual thing, so see how they're explicitly referring to the question. Another unusual thing about his visit is the fact he arrived at Meridian Primary School dressed in full character as Captain Jack Sparrow. Really good quote there. Which could imply, it's spelt wrong but no worries, which could imply he likes dressing as Jack. The next thing was interesting was that he made the one-off trip after 9-year-old Beatrice Dollop wrote to the Star. This is unusual because he probably has a busy schedule. So we see another inference there. They're able to read between the lines and think, why is it unusual? Well, because he's probably got a busy schedule. One last thing is that they were not told until 10 minutes before, making it a big surprise. So there's another inference there at the end. So this student has made inferences, there's more than one of them. See here, they've offered relevant and appropriate quotations, more than one of them. And they've talked about interesting, unusual aspects of the visit, again, more than one of them. And I can see clearly that this student has understood the text. So that's what this question 1b is all about. At least one inference, try and do 2. Make sure you're using quotes. Make sure you're focusing on the question and looking for the specific wording in that question to help focus your answer. Okay, really good luck with it.